first of all, why do people impersonate police officers? Why do they put on a uniform and pretend to be a cop?
Typically, most of these cases where you have someone impersonating a police officer, they're out for some sort of gain. This is people trying to stop other motorists and commit a crime or rape or hurt other people, that there's something in it for them. In this case, it's unusual. He's not being paid. He's not taking advantage of anyone. It appears he just needed something to do after he was let go or retired from the police force.
The officers who pulled him over, you know, you can hear them talking on their body cam. They're very nice to him at first, but they're like, dude, who do you work for? And why are you in our jurisdiction? And, you know, he explains, I just sort of move around with this construction crew and help divert traffic for them wherever they're working. Does that even happen anyplace?
It doesn't happen that way. And the police officers recognized right away that his uniform wasn't standard, that he didn't have the right badges and the right patches on it. And when they asked him where he was from, he said he was from a county miles and miles away. Police officers who then moonlight and work for construction companies or work security have to work in the county where they ordinarily work. It just doesn't happen.
What do you think he was trying to do?
It looks like he was trying to kill her. And for what reason, we don't know. You know, he didn't know her. So why would he do that? She fought the good fight, and she did all the right things. She was really, really brave, and kudos to her.
What did she do right?
She turned into him, so he couldn't pull her backwards off balance. You know, didn't have her awareness about her to prevent the attack from happening. You could have potentially gotten your hands in between the shoelace or the belt or whatever it might be to keep your neck safe, to keep you from being pulled back. But she turned into him rather than being pulled backwards onto her back, where you just have...
Jimmy, there's been an increasing number of attacks on these street vendors and their carts. Why is that?
You know, they're on the streets and they're vulnerable, and you know, they've got no protection from the city, from the police department, from anybody. So they're vulnerable, and people take advantage of the situation, and then they go after them and they rob them and beat them and do all that stuff. So it's a sad situation.
Right, and we can see how vulnerable they are when you see Berta in this video. Your heart just breaks for her, but I guess I'm really kind of shocked that people are standing around watching this woman attack and trash her cart, her livelihood, and nobody does anything to stop her.
You know, you're right about that. So sad. There was people recording. There was people just standing there not getting involved. I spoke to one of the gentlemen that was there. He said he was scared. He didn't know she had a knife on her, a gun, anything. So they just kind of stood back and recorded just so they can give it to the police.
In many cases, because so many of these people, you know, are immigrants from another country, is there a reluctance to call police, do you think, and report crimes that are happening because they're afraid that they'll be seen as being in the country illegally, or if they are, being deported?
A lot of these cases don't get reported because these people are afraid to call the police and to call any authorities because they think they're going to get cited, maybe even deported. So a lot of times what happens is they just kind of sweep it under the rug and just go out about it just another day.
Jim, that morning you had gotten up really early to go down to jury duty, found out it was canceled, and you were on your way walking home. What happened?
I walked across a little park in front of the courthouse, across the street, and the next thing I know, there's the CCSO deputy come whipping in front of me and took the parking spot where I was gonna walk by. And the deputy stepped out, and she told me that my walking stick hanging out of my back pocket looked like a firearm. I lost all my patience.
So she asked you for your identification. You refused to give it to her. Why?
She didn't need it. I hadn't done any crime.
So you were well within your rights to refuse to give your name, correct?
That's what I thought.
So what did she do?
She proceeded to insist that she needed my ID, and I asked her for her supervisor. Call your supervisor. He was already showing up on scene, so I just turned to him, and of course he had the same issues. He needed that crack, he needed that ID, and I didn't have the need to give it to him. I showed him my walking cane. They just wanted that ID.
People might wonder why you continue to refuse to do that when you could have just made the whole thing go away at that point.
When I got accosted by a tyrant. I wasn't in the best frame of mind to begin with, and they weren't showing me the due respect that they wanted me to afford them. So I just gave them a little parenting instead.
What happens when you got down to the police station?
Then they took me to a room. They made me strip all my clothes off. I was in a cold holding cell with just a wool blanket. And then they moved me upstairs. The next morning, they pulled me out, take me to court. And I looked at a TV where there was a judge. And based upon the arrest report, she decided to hold it over for trial. But I was free to go on my own recognizance.
Wait, on what charges?
On the resisting.
The video has gone seriously viral, and people are really outraged on your behalf.
Yeah, because I'm carrying this.
Anthony Pope is a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor. And Anthony, I've never seen any workplace violence quite like this. Have you?
No, it's unusual. You know, it's commonplace to see bars and incidents between patrons. Alcohol will do that. But for an employer to come out and attack an employee the way this is described, that certainly is unusual.
And this isn't like a swipe or a swing. He grabs her by the neck and appears to throttle her.
The potential of strangulation, putting your hands around someone's throat, most jurisdictions today really take that very seriously. As a matter of fact, you know, New Jersey and New York areas, if you strangle someone as opposed to just punching someone or hitting them even really hard, it elevates the offense because that's dangerous. You put your hands around someone's, throat, you could stop their breathing, and you could kill them or cause brain damage. And it also goes to the viciousness of the anger that someone is feeling.
We know that this bar owner had, a long history, according to employees, of being verbally abusive. Obviously, this escalates way beyond verbal abuse to physical assault, a serious physical assault. What should a worker do if they have a boss like that who's a bully and there isn't an HR department? I mean, that's a bar. It's a local bar. Who do you go to when the boss is the one who's being abusive?
You have to quit. You can't put yourself in harm's way. When it happens, you have to take action immediately about it. But if you think that somebody has the potential to be violent, I mean, you just have to use your own judgment and say, nothing's worth it. No job is worth it.
Tell me how his prior record comes into play in a case like this.
You want to look at the totality of the circumstance, of course, but then you want to say, well, what is the individual about? Does he have a prior record? Does he have alcoholism or drug addiction? Has he been charged before with assaults or with anything, DWI? You want to know who you're dealing with.
It's a good thing that the victim's daughter was there recording this. In this case, it was that cell phone video showing this shocking assault that really led to some sort of action being taken.
That's what your program's all about, because, years ago, it was rare that you even had cameras on a corner or street corner. Now they're all over. They're on every street corner. Everybody has a phone. So it really can act in some instances as a deterrent. I am sure that there are times where things have broken out and everybody's taken out the phone and everybody starts recording that people have backed off. There's no doubt in my mind that happens and will continue to happen. So the more people engage in that type of behavior, the better off it is for all of us.